of here by 9:45, if not before.
So welcome, this is
The number changes.
I'll just go through everything right now. Hopefully everyone's reviewed their minutes. This might be the quickest JCPC for you, I think, that I have chaired. Good to go? All right, good morning, everyone. It's June 11th. Thank you all for attending either virtually or in person. My name is George Redmond, the JCPC chair. Thank you all for being here for our board meeting today. If you've got the agenda, what we'll be doing is going through reviewing the minutes, looking at the committees, program updates, and any sort of public announcements and comments. Before we get to there, let's kind of just do a roll call just to make sure we have, I know who is all here. We can first start off the people here present, 200 College Street. Again, myself, George Redmond, JCPC chair. I'll start to the left of me.
Angel Redmond, Parks and Recreation.
Banta Whitner, community member.
Angelica Tyler, Communications and Public Engagement.
Hannah Ledgerton, Buncombe County Youth Justice.
Karen Pearson, Restorative Justice, Buncombe Alternatives.
Jeremy Bricker, Claridita.
Sylvia Clement, DJJ, Chief Court Counselor.
All right, that's everyone here at 200 College Street. As we go through, it looks like, is that Mr. Robinson? Is that correct?
Good morning, Eric Robinson, Asheville Housing Authority.
Good morning, Eric. It looks like after that, it's Ms. Frazier.
Hi, Robin Frazier with Aspire Youth and Family.
Good morning, Robin. Looks like I'm just going on the screen. It looks like is it Norma with Unete?
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be able to be here.
Buenos dias, Norma. Looks like next is Angie.
Hey, Angie Garner via Health.
Morning, Angie. After that, it looks like I'm seeing Beth.
Beth Kraft, community member.
Morning, Beth. And I might need your help because I don't see anyone else.
Yeah, let's see. We've got Shannon Martin.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Shannon.
Rebecca Smith.
Good morning.
Morning, Rebecca.
Dr. Noriel Armstrong. Dr. No.
Good morning.
Morning, Doctor.
Judge Shotson Smith.
Good morning, folks.
Morning,
Judge. Let's see. Did we already do Kadaya Ross?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Michael Morrison.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Michael.
And Brandon Priester.
Morning, Brandon.
Yeah, he was on.
And then I believe I saw Richard Caro with Emoja.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Richard.
And then if there's anyone else that we've missed, please speak up and let us know you're here.
Hey, this is Kim Casano from Aspire.
Hi, Kim. And we now have Lorraine Williams in the room.
Welcome, Lorraine.
Thank you. I apologize.
Great to have you.
Lorraine, you haven't been told, but we have to end this at 9:45. Maybe 9:44.
Otherwise, we'll have the Army Corps of Engineers coming in on top of it.
All right, so thank you all for being here, either virtually or physically present here today, and for all that you do with JCPC. Hannah has sent out our minutes from the last board meeting. If y'all have had a chance to review them prior to today, we would entertain a motion in a second. If not, you can take time to review now briefly because we do need to be out of here by 9:45.
Angie, motions to approve?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next on our agenda, we're looking at the FY 25-26 committee chairs. I know we kind of discussed that, I think, at the last board meeting of people's intentions. And correct me if I'm wrong, Hannah, is this to confirm or is this to kind of just voluntold or just kind of give a brief overview?
I believe this would be to confer a number of people in current roles and also be voicing interest in future roles, voice their openness to serving next year. I think this would be to both confirm that and make sure if there's anyone else who wants to throw their name in, we have space for that, and then it would be to make a motion.
Gotcha.
Would you like me to go through who volunteered at the last meeting?
Let's go ahead and do that just so we can make sure everyone's on the same page.
So at the last meeting, our current chair, George Redmond, expressed his willingness to continue to serve as the JCPC chair. And with that, handed him a vice chair, Brandon Priester, said that if George is still on board, he's happy to continue to serve as vice chair. And as always, Brandon voiced his willingness to do whatever is best for the group. Our committee chairs from this past year, Angie Gardner, voiced a commitment to continuing to serve with planning, and that's the data and data review and priority setting committee. I think we had a new self-nomination for monitoring where we had a vacancy from Andy Babowski, and Vanta Whitner said that she would be open to stepping up as chair for monitoring as long as Sergeant Craig Loveland was a dedicated member of the team. He confirmed his commitment, although denied an interest in being a vice chair. And then Angel Redmond voiced her willingness to continue to serve as allocations chair, even though we do not know if we'll have a full allocations process, but she's dedicated to supporting the JCPC in any and every way that she can.
Good move, Angel. Good move.
Thanks for all that. For the record.
Are there any questions, or if there's anyone else who wants to throw their name in for leadership at this point, or? In years past, we had vice chairs for the committees, but at some point we realized that the JCPC decided just to move forward with committee chairs. People are really interested in showing additional support.
Anyone virtually have any questions or concerns or want to put their hat in the ring for any of these chairs or committee chairs? Nothing in the chat. I don't see anyone. Maybe it's just early in the morning. But if there is no opposition to what was already talked about at the prior board meeting and what Hannah just kind of went over with the chairs and the committee chairs, looks like we'll need a motion or a second to approve the chair and the committees.
A motion to approve the chairs and committees as Hannah reported them.
All right. Is there a second?
This is Shannon, I second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Well, looks like we've got our chairs and our committees set up for next year. We'll go a little bit into that, I guess, at our next board meeting as to people that can help assist in any of the committee chairs with planning, monitoring, and allocations. But we'll leave that to the next meeting. As we move down on the agenda calendar, the next thing we have is a program update. It looks like this one was budgeted, a budget one from Aspire. I think we do have Kim on the line as well as Robin.
Yeah, I'll take it. Thanks so much. So we do have a budget revision. It is merely a line item revision. There's no changes in any of our revenue sources. We decreased several line items, salaries and wages, fringe benefits. We took out for a contract coach that we had. Also less money in fuel and utilities, office rent. And likewise, we increased our communications. We had to pay more for accounting. We did a lot more in staff training. Our insurance costs went up, and also small equipment. So we made increases in the amount of $6,355, the same amount in decreases.
And just to clarify, this is not normally this isn't a revision that would need approval. They did do a previous, you all did vote before back in April for their thing, for their previous budget revision. The only reason you're voting on this one is because of the changes to salary. Anytime there's change to salary, it's just safer to have the JCPC vote, so y'all know, since that represents programming differently than if your utility bill is going up or down.
Gotcha. So nothing to do with tariffs?
No, nothing to do with tariffs.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
No.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, you can,
Just for the,
just for the revision.
are there any questions or concerns from any of the JCPC members as to Robin's and Aspire's budget revision of $6,000? If there aren't any questions or concerns, then we will entertain a motion in a second.
Move to approve the revision.
Second.
I only have one thing in the chat, but I don't know. I don't see it.
It looks like a 1 in the chat.
Angie moves to approve the revisions for Aspire.
Angie, you're late. Banta beat you, Angie. We were here till 9:45. You gotta come quick.
Vanta's such a soft speaker. Okay, sorry.
Is there something in the
The
chat?
chat you see is from earlier. It's
Okay.
just on this display. We're not able to clear it because the room is a person. It's
Understood.
an entity. It's not a person. It's an entity.
It's AI.
It's not that either.
So we have
Jeremy,
the
is that right?
first-
You would second that? So we had a motion from Banta and a second from Jeremy. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So we move through the agenda. Our next up would be DJJ.
JJ.
Wait, Sylvia.
It's also a busy start. And so, had a lot going on last week. We did take 30 kids to camp, supposedly. Some kids kind of backed out, and then there were exams and those type of things. So we are looking to change the date, maybe a week later for next year. So we'll have more kids. But they enjoyed their time. It was nice. It was peaceful. They did rock climbing. Rock climbing, canoeing, horseback riding, and we only had one incident. We had a kid to fall off the horse. I think she was a little nervous from the start, and the horse probably could sense it, and so it was an incident there. But overall, she was okay. She had a few scrapes, and we kind of put some ointment and things like that on it. But other than that, she was good to go for the rest of the day. She participated. So that went well. And then, and thank you to JCPC for buying the snacks. We appreciate that. They appreciate that. They enjoyed it.
Is that a full day at the camp?
From 10 to 3. But we met in the mall parking lot, Old Sears parking lot with the Emma bus. transported the kids there. And, yeah, 10 to 3.
You said Sears. I love old Sears.
Sears.
Yeah, it's like roses out
Yeah.
here. Is that something that JCPC members could come and observe, or is that something that's mainly for DJJ and for the
Well,
kids?
it started off being a combination of folks, and we had community programs there. This time they brought us the NC Safe bags, and they were there last time too, but they brought the bags for the kids with nice frisbee, a bunch of information, gun. I don't know if it was a gun lock in there or not, but it was a nice NC Safe bag for the kids. Normally, we had some JCPC programs to attend, and I think Hannah attended a couple of times. She didn't this year, but I don't want just to be more adults than kids.
Correct.
So yeah, there's an opportunity there. So once maybe they change the time, the week later, you can offer that to folks.
Okay. I guess just keep us updated in case
will.
anybody wants to.
Will do. We did attend, my staff did attend the NC Safe event on June the 3rd with our Deputy Secretary and community programs to talk about NC Safe. It was nice. Kind of started a little slow, but folks showed up, kind of trickled in, and so thought it went very, very well. Yeah.
And where was that at again?
At the Tanger Outlet, Sportsman's.
Yes, it's with APD, is that right?
With APD, community programs, and then our deputy secretary. We did have some photos. We took photos, and it's on the DPS website, Juvenile Justice. So check it out if you get a minute. Lorraine, I saw a photo of you and my staff, and yeah, thought we looked kind of cute, but yeah, check that out. Also, numbers slightly increased, maybe 10 to 15 more, so just pushing it up a little bit, not anything overwhelming, but slightly increasing. So we'll see what happens. Say it again.
You talking about the 10 or 15, you're talking about cases coming up?
Mhm.
I mean, is this no, I mean, it's summer about
Yeah.
to happen, so I
Yeah.
think.
So anything's possible. I mean, we don't know what to expect, but whatever comes, we'll deal with that. But yeah, they're slightly increasing, nothing overwhelming, so. We'll see what occurs with that. Assessments are going well, no backlog with that. Some good news, some great news is we're waiting to hear back from a couple of new hires, hopefully. By the end of the month, we'll see. We've already done the interviews, and so we're waiting for testing and things like that for a court counselor and a court counselor supervisor. So.
It's wonderful news.
So that's all my great news.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Anybody have any questions? Right then, 9:45.
We're on track. All right, Lorraine, you're up. Looks like next on the agenda is Lorraine with an update.
All right, for an in-person meeting, y'all are doing great. Try not to mess it up. All right. As far as, I don't have a lot of updates. I can, I'll pass these around, and I sent this out also. These are the program numbers year to date, and as you all know, we're coming up on the very end of the year. And so you can see the update on how many have been served year to date. Numbers have been down in Buncombe throughout the year. I mean, as I was pulling numbers, I was really, like, I've noticed it throughout the year, but you can really see it in some of the programs. And of course, a lot of that is from losing several months of programming.
Yeah.
It's hard to run a program when you don't have a place to live, or running water, or
school.
Or school, or
yeah.
roads. Roads to drive your car on if you still have one, that's, you know, so a lot of transition, and that did affect the numbers greatly in Buncombe, and understandably so. And the programs did do a lot of bounce back afterwards very well, but you can see that reflected in the numbers. Y'all are at about half for that. But that is the report, and then of course on the backside are the youth that have completed their programming for the year. So 81 so far for the year have completed programming, and that's since July 1st, and 60 of those satisfactorily, and then you can see the breakdown for other reasons. I know usually we don't have time to actually look at that because we're usually at the very end, so I snuck that in first.
Do we have that virtually, Hannah? Are they able to,
If
was
you
it
send it,
presented?
Yeah, I sent it out. Yeah, so if anyone has questions about that. And I did mark on, the other thing you all had happen is the Buncombe County Youth Justice Clinical Program did close, and so they didn't serve any youth this year. They had some carryovers, but they closed them as of July 1st. Or early in the year. But you can see all the ones that picked up with that. And then for any questions about the numbers, other than noted that they are lower this year.
And then, again, that's not a cause of concern due to the hurricane that came through.
Yeah, that is due to the hurricane that came through. I mean, like Earn and Learn, I think was at about half of what it usually is.
I wish we could say it was because of Helene, but we still haven't entered quite a few. I have a picture of Juan's to be entered.
Oh, okay.
He's got about 14 that
Okay.
are still being entered, so we'll see it, come out.
All right.
I always tell them 2 days prior, and since we were originally scheduled for next Thursday, it's still on the calendar to have them in by next week, so. But most of that is because of Helene, but we're running
Yeah,
about
this
42.
meeting is early, it's a week earlier too, than you all usually are, so I had not thought of that, but. Yeah, that's a good point. And programs do have 7 days to enter them after they've been admitted to the program. So there's always a little bit, like when in my counties where programs give updates, where they have a little bit more time and give updates on their numbers each time. Often I'll hand out this and their numbers will be slightly different because of that. So it's always an active piece that's being updated. As far as other news, the only other thing, as Sylvia mentioned, the Asheville Police Department's NC Safe event went well, and Deputy Secretary Lassiter was able to attend, along with Jared Cohn, who's from our communications department. So it was wonderful to have them here, and last night when I forwarded this handout and added it to Hannah's, there are 2 links to 2 WLOS sites, and one of them was for the NC Safe event and down at Sportsman's Warehouse, and the other was for the annual plan. That was also covered by the news. If you all haven't seen that, that was about a week ago. So if you all want to see, they did a nice job on that. So I put those 2 links in my email. And then in other events, I was trying to see, there are other NC Safe events coming up at the end of the month. On the 28th, Saturday the 28th, there's going to be an event that the violence prevention group, and my daddy taught me that a collaboration is working on, and so that will be the 28th here in the park again.
it'll be at MLK Park. It's on that Saturday, Family Fun and Safety First. And if folks are interested in getting involved, you can reach out to Jackie Latek with Spark, or Libby Kiles with YTL, or Jacqueline, like my dad taught me that. And otherwise come out and show up and support, and should be some good times. I know Asheville Parks and Rec is going to be out to support, or helping out in some way. And then a bunch of county support, some sheriff's office and APD, and should be good times.
And we do have more gun locks in for that event, as well as the Frisbees that and other swag like that we handed out at the NC Safe event last week, and we'll bring to that one as well, so. And there are other activities throughout the month that the NC Safe Committee's been planning, so just wanted to make you all aware of that. And then the last thing is, there hasn't been, all of the governor, of course, had proposed his budget, and then the Senate, and then the House, and so those are in committee, nothing's been decided yet. The Juvenile Crime Prevention Council funds, were in there for a request for an increase, because those have not been increased in a number of years. No. I don't wanna say one way or the other, but I don't think it's likely. They haven't increased in 15 years, so other than raise the age for those 2 years, those are the only years those actually have increased, but that is on the forefront of one of the requests for this year, and I'm sure will continue to be a priority. And as you all recall, in the past 2 biennial budget, some of the priorities really had to do with making sure court counselors got hired and the step pay plan going into effect to be able to keep staff and to get people hired. And also, I know DJJ has worked hard to speed up that process to be able to get people into those positions. So, and we're seeing the fruits of that. It was great to see all of you at the event last weekend, and lots of people there. So glad y'all are staffed well. I think that's all the news that I had for this time.
Cool.
I've got, yeah, thank you. Thanks. As far as the one other thing that I wanted to cover with you all is that there was a critical incident report that was actually back this winter. It was just before the holidays, and I heard about it in January or at our December meeting. And Umoja had a critical standard violation. So it's just for those who are newer, critical standards are any type of incident that you would report that could have to do with potential safety of youth. And they cover a wide range of things. It could be anything from if you have a staff member that like had a DUI or had some kind of a criminal investigation, you would of course take action, and then also let us know and let Sylvia know, let court services know. So you would let us know right away. That's part of policy, and there are a number of different things that fall into that. And it's one of the things in policy that's really important. And so critical standard reports from programs are pretty common, especially if you get like residential programs or programs that are working with youth pretty frequently. They will often say, hey, we had a potential critical standard incident, and they call and they let me know, and they let the court counselor and the chief know. And what we do then as consultants, we ask them to send us the information, we gather information and find out what steps did they take to address that incident, and did they follow their policies, and do all of their policies that they followed also meet the minimum standards for JCPC policy. So that's the process we go through anytime there's a critical incident report from any program. And I know y'all have been through this, before. This is not the first time y'all have heard about this in a JCPC meeting. And so briefly, the incident that led to the critical standard report from Umoja was they had a youth who actually had completed the JCPC portion of the program, but it was a DJJ involved youth. And they were waiting to they were with a staff member waiting, and the staff member, it was cold. It was one of those early cold days we had in the winter. And there was one youth in the vehicle, and the staff person got out of the van to go get someone who had not come back down. And during that time, the youth in the vehicle decided to drive around the parking lot and then parked again. And someone saw him, said something, he parked again, and then the person came back down, and that was the extent of the incident. But of course, that could have been something that could have gone awry and led to something more serious. So the program, that was a critical standard violation. We looked through it, and I've been working with Umoja to look at that. They have come up with a very extensive plan of correction and are working through that plan now and have updated some of their policies and training as a result of that. And so they're in the process of that, and their plan has been accepted and reviewed. So just wanted to let you know that's where we are with that. And when they have completed the steps of their plan, we will let you all know that they have. Richard, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I just wanted to share my appreciation for Lorraine and the process with the critical standard violation. It's always good to reflect and connect on these issues. And it's been, and with Unite as well, and Miss Norma and her staff, we've been doing additional trainings and review of policies and procedures. But you know, the what ifs that Lorraine mentioned were real good for us to imagine, what if this happened, what if this happened, and then to reflect on how our team would adjust and support. So we've been reflecting on that, and it's been a good process. So thank you, Lorraine, and thank you, JCPC leadership team.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, and just one other thing I'll say, and I know this has come up in other discussions about prior critical incidents that from other programs is, you know, sometimes it's that hat of thinking about, you know, most of us, if we have an older teenager in our car, we'll get out for a minute and leave the car running, you know, if it's our child. But sometimes it's that thinking of training newer staff and thinking through, it's not my child and what could happen. So it's the what ifs. So those types of steps are sometimes the challenges, because they're the difference between the professional care of youth versus, you know, you're the mom or the dad and you get out for a minute. So, thank you so much for everything y'all have done and for that, and good luck with your training. I know you all are doing training today for your summer program, so hope that goes well.
All right. Anything else, Lorraine?
No, not unless there are any questions. Does anyone have any questions?
No, I think we're all grateful that joyride didn't turn into anything worse than what it was. Obviously, we're grateful for Umoja and Unite and all that they do. These are bound to happen with kids making wrong decisions. That's why we're here. It's the council. That's why we have the programs here. And so it's good to know that we're still working with these programs and making sure that everyone's abiding by policy and getting corrective actions in place. And so thank you, Lorraine, for the update. And as we move on to the next part of our agenda, we're looking at public comment announcements. I know that Lorraine had already kind of mentioned about the the Family Fun Day on June 28th here at MLK. Any other announcements from any other programs that you'd like to give a shout out to?
I think my daddy taught me that their new building dedication is coming up this weekend.
This Saturday?
Denny Lake, yeah.
On 3 Hunt Hill, is that up there up top?
Yeah, I've got the flyer here too. Let me.
Got a flyer. He's gonna.
Yeah, the Benny Lee Lake Building Dedication Ceremony, June 14th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., 3 Hunt Hill Place, Asheville.
And if you can send that flyer out to us, Brandon, so we can kind of push that out for people to attend.
George, we still have time. May I make a comment from Deja?
Please.
Cheney? Okay. Deja Cheney is representative here of JCPC, but also Buncombe Alternatives senior intern. And she's not able to be here today. She scheduled herself to be here on Thursday, so she sends her apology. I wanted to recognize that she, for the lead for North Carolina, got awarded a year-long fellowship through UNCA School of Government and Law through AmeriCorps. She is the lead for North Carolina Connects, promising young leaders with our state's local governments. This innovative fellowship program supports communities, strengthens public institutions while creating a new generation of public servants. One of the cool things about this is we get to keep her next year, as does the JCPC, because she was awarded Buncombe County. So she will be here and will be continuing to work on our risk and needs throughout the county as well. So we're really excited for her.
Great news.
Yes, very much so.
I brought some flyers and I can send it out electronically too, but just for the connection program. So with the school now being out, summer programming is huge to keep our kids occupied and engaged, and we're offering the connection program during daytime hours. And again, that's for film and music and audio production. So make sure that you all get one of these, and I'll pass it out. I'll send it to Hannah too to distribute electronically.
I was wondering about that too. I was seeing that in there and I was waiting to get a kind of update on the connection. So it's great that that's up and going, especially here in the summer. So we got flyers. Are referrals needed for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I brought a stack for your court counselors.
Richard put in the chat a reminder that if you have any referrals for Hope for the Future summer program, that you can find the link on their website to refer people to that.
And kind of just real quick, school's out, SROs are coming, not as busy as much, teachers aren't as busy. Where do the referrals come from? Right, I mean, we don't want them to come from DJJ, during the summer, where do they generally come from at this point? If we're still wanting to continue this pattern and not kind of push them through DJJ, where do we think these referrals should come from, and where do other counties, in this kind of down period, where does that kind of generate?
They normally come from DJJ.
Is there any?
We have 9 right now from the schools.
Okay.
So, and we just turned 3 in back to Asheville City Schools. We're working on their impact statement right now for those 3. So we usually get them up until summer school starts. They take off 2 weeks and then we'll still get some trickle. We stay busy until about the 2nd week in August.
Okay.
So
just from all of those ones that are, I just wasn't sure because it seems like that would drive the source, which would lead now the community to take place, but I wasn't sure who in the community would be able to do those referrals and keep that going over the summer, because that is probably one of the most important periods for kids that don't have supervision, but our normal route is through DJJ or through SROs in schools. And if we don't want to necessarily focus in on DJJ and the schools are out, who else steps up to the plate? I guess is the question for us. Who in the community can offer referrals to these types of programs if we don't have DJJ and we don't have school?
DSS, we've trained DSS, still law enforcement, parent.
Mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess as long as we push that out to make sure that other referrals can come outside of DJJ, especially during the summer, I think is to make sure that these programs are being utilized.
And George, we have another flyer and we're communicating with the SROs and the school systems as well. But we did have success at our last team court session, and we had SROs and representatives from both Asheville City Schools and Buncombe County Schools. Thanks, Sylvia, for showing up we were in your office basically, but for talking to the folks that came, because we had a full house. So they are trickling in, but just a quick reminder, and we'll get this out to Dr. Furman and Jackson, that coming to the team court session as an SRO, walking through that process is key. I think we had 3 referrals that next day.
Okay.
From school admin. So while they're still working, we're still getting them.
And teen court goes out in the summer, so it seems like something that at least we push the SROs, since they're not in schools and they're probably, at least from the sheriff's standpoint, are getting pulled back into other things the sheriff's office may need. It'd still be a perfect time for them to kind of get that experience over the summer without it conflicting with other times and secondary obligations they may have.
And I know Sylvia's working with the sheriff's department and getting that information out as well, so they're coming in.
And one other thing I will say, I know we were talking about the numbers earlier, but to answer for 2 things. George, to your point about where do referrals come from in the summer, the work that y'all have done with the school justice partnership, some of that will continue through with those SROs being trained, that does spread to law enforcement and continues that. And so over the summer, you might get more law enforcement referrals, where they pass them on instead of charging. So that's one possibility in addition to the others. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, the other thing that may have, in addition to the hurricane, the other thing with numbers is that when you have more community referrals from schools and from other places than DJJ, sometimes those don't, like when they're first referred, sometimes families and you don't follow through as much. So you may have the programs experiencing a larger number of referrals and fewer of them coming to fruition that first time. Sometimes it takes that second time of working with them or getting them re-referred, where you're saying to the family, if you don't follow through this time, you are gonna probably end up with a DJJ referral. And so come that route, so.
And that's kind of the conversation that George and the superintendent and the sheriff and myself and Ms. Lindsay talked about a little bit. It's a work in progress, so we're trying to tweak it a little bit and tighten it up, so.
Yeah, so.
And it's still counted on hand. We call them the orange basket, if you remember from our report. I think this year, going into the summer, we have 24. 3 have gone to the court. Those were from Asheville City Schools, so they needed a higher level of care. So we know that we'll see them again, and we staff those with JJTC. But we have about 27 in the orange basket, and we do follow those. And Lorraine worked with us to show how we can put those in NC Allies moving forward and check those, even though you won't see them on our count, we will see them. And that way we can identify with the court counselor that they needed a higher level of care, and that red flags it for the future.
And some of those you do get re-referred, it's just that it takes longer sometimes to get them into the programming because there just isn't not as much incentive behind it the first time.
Which means it's working.
I know that Chief Clement meets with the law enforcement SRO partners before the school year starts, and the planning committee, the JCPC planning committee has talked about having JCPC programs have some time to introduce themselves to SROs and social workers, and that's something that we can help with, reaching out to the school partners and the SRO partners to see if there's a time before school starts back or right at the beginning of the fall semester that we could provide that opportunity. I know that scheduling has been a tricky thing with that. So
We host like an open house and just have our program set up tables. We may be able to do that at Stevens Lee and then just give a date and have SROs.
We used to do that.
The ones come.
We used to do that.
With schools going back, I'm a former teacher, you have so much dedicated time in that first week sometimes where people are really thinking about how are we gonna rethink our behavior system, or how are we gonna rethink and strategize, and having any voice right there in that moment where those conversations are on the table and being worked out is, I think, a really, even if it's a Zoom where you can get in on those meetings that are happening at different times, even if it's 20 minutes on the agenda, having that presented in a clear way, I think would, when people are open and we're headed back in, how's this year gonna kind of look different or feel different, I think is a smart way to kind of capitalize on people that are already meeting with that energy. Sometimes hosting your own meeting, depending on your relationships in the community, could be great, but you kind of want strike while the iron's hot in other ways too.
Yeah, and the chief and I went, when we went over to the school board, we're just gonna have to hit it with different approaches, right? I mean, we know that we've got to get the school on board, and that's gonna involve being there when the teachers and the school counselors are there and getting on that agenda. And then we also have the SROs that have to get theirs, but also the community, I think, as well. We're gonna want referrals from all over. So I think hitting it in different aspects is gonna be key if we're gonna change this sort of trajectory of this pipeline that we've been accustomed to. So I guess what we can perhaps do, the summer's already started. So I guess by the next JCPC meeting, we can maybe have a date with Stevens Lee to figure out if that's something, or a couple dates to see, because I know that one date perhaps in all the programs may not fit, but a couple dates, we can at least push that out to the community. The SROs will have their own with DJJ, and I don't want that to get muddied up with the programs. I want DJJ and SROs to focus in on what we need to iron out and fix with those. But I do think that having it for the community and having it with the education system are imperative.
George, this is Smitty. What do you think about on the, I love the idea of maybe trying to have a couple of dates with open houses for the programs. Would those be possible times where the SROs could also go with the focus on what those programs are instead of what they're working on with Sylvia, so that you'd have sort of a combo of seeing the SROs in the community and having the community there?
Yep. I'll definitely pass that along for them so that they can get the opportunity to understand and ask questions and just be out and about in the public. If we can combine those open houses with SROs, being able to be educated, then I'll push that agenda to the sheriff's office, and I'll let Loveland know as well.
Well, and I'd love for us to combine that with just acknowledgement of the school justice partnership in that realm. So it seems like I could land a little bit of a helping hand on that side too. We're not going to meet this summer, but I think we're going to meet in little groups and try to work behind the scenes a bit more with everyone to kind of go where to go from here.
Okay. Once we get those dates, Angel looks through Stevens Lee, and potentially what we'll try to do is shoot that out. We have school justice partnership, we have all the programs, we have SROs. It seems like it'd be a great thing, at least for the community that we're reaching out and trying to advocate. At that point, we have the resource calendar that Hannah put together. So we have all of that to be able to present to families and residents of this community. So I think that'd be perfect. Be great. I don't know. I mean, it's always kind of hit and miss over the summer, but it's not gonna be perfect for everyone. So just having it and starting it and keeping it perhaps on an annual thing may be the best course.
We also have the resource of a truancy mediation training that's been hard to schedule because it takes 2 full days, or 5 hours each day. But I'm wondering if maybe we can find time, if the summer is a good time for JCPC programs and other interested partners, DJJ, if we can find, I'll reach out and see if we can find some time before school starts back up and everything gets going again, or if we need to look for the beginning of the school year. But I think there's been a lot of interest from the schools in figuring out alternative ways to respond to truancy. And I think not just the schools, I think from many partners. So I'll follow up with folks to see about if we can actually find scheduling for that.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah, and I know, I know Angela has mentioned this a couple of times. In Henderson, they've had an online thing where the programs have presented to the schools, the beginning of the year, and they, I think, do it a couple times a year actually, just for them to, social workers, SROs, to kind of get on and familiarize themselves with the programs and ask questions about intake and that kind of thing. And then in Haywood County, last year, they pulled together very quickly, and they're going to do it again this year. Some of the court counselors set up an open house at lunchtime, and they were gearing it for SROs, and of course, it's a smaller county, and they were able to pull that together, and they just had an open house for law enforcement to come through so they could help them, and they were especially wanted to do it with the changes to for the 16 and 17-year-olds being kind of shifting again to help law enforcement with that process of even making the referrals and figuring out the juvenile process, because they're not always working with that process if they're working with adults and juveniles. So they did that over a lunchtime, more like an open house like Angel was talking about. So as y'all know, and I know y'all have done this before in the past, so any of those things would work.
And so we do go out annually to meet with law enforcement, Buncombe and Asheville City, to do DJJ presentations, for them to share the process, ask questions. So it's not like we're not doing
Yeah,
anything.
y'all
We're
are
not
doing
anything,
that.
but yeah.
And all the school justice partnership work that y'all have been doing. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, announcements? I did have an inquiry about red data. Do we know, I know that we're gonna try to get her back at some point, but I thought that was kind of lost in the fog. I think she came, did she come to DJJ? But I think we were wanting a breakdown in a meeting, and I don't know where that landed.
Yeah, that has landed. I think at this point, probably aiming for a back to school emphasis.
Okay.
Closer to the August meeting is probably the best approach. We did talk about different ones.
Have you reached out to her? Or?
I did send her an email, but I need to follow up. Yeah.
So potentially in August?
Yeah.
In August.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I need to follow up again. Yeah.
Any other comments, announcements from anyone virtually, or anyone here in attendance in 200 College Street?
Well, I would like to announce that we found a space to continue with UNETE Community Tuesday, since we are not in our usual site at Emma Fellowship Church. So our community didn't have any disruption in the providing fresh vegetables with volunteer souls and that community space, which yesterday was about what we do with youth and children during the summer. And parents are very, very interested in know how to set parental controls and how to program the router so internet is cut off at midnight. So it was very moving that parents wants to know how to to regain a little of control on what their children are exposed or have capacity to be wandering around the internet. We hadn't secured yet our space for our youth programs and our community programs, but it will happen. I mean, everybody thought I was, as usual, too optimistic, thinking that in 1 month we are going to find the perfect space to continue providing 250 families, and we did it. We had our UNETE Tuesday in Emma Fellowship last Tuesday, and yesterday we have our UNETE Community Tuesday in Riverside Baptist Church. So that at least is checked and accomplished. Now, the second one is office space, which probably will be at ABCCM Cumberland Avenue. Community space for continue to our youth program. We reach with Manos our 10 graduates this school year, which is amazing because very rewarding for their families and of course for us, because from those 10, 8 were challenging, beautiful students, seeing them walking through receiving their diploma this Saturday is going to be an amazing, and they are newcomers. From the 10 graduates, 8 are newcomers, and the other 2 were born here. So we are excited we're reaching again the 100% mark of seniors in our program that at certain moments were high risk and that now are graduating. So thank you for the support and I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Norma.
Thank you.
Kind of brings up another thought that it's graduates in these programs, right? And where they're going. It'd be good to see how many of our programs do have graduates and how many are, what they're doing afterwards, and their goals and stuff like that. I don't know if we ever tracked anything of that nature. My initial thought is that most of them aren't seniors, they're kind of lower level, but I don't know why I thought that. Obviously, there's some that are higher up than juniors and seniors, and if they successfully completed programs where they're going, it'd be great to have stories and things like that to hear from them. So I guess as we get to the next, if some of the programs, if you can deep dive into your stats and find out who has graduated, I guess at our next board meeting, if we can just kind of go over those numbers and just see where those individuals are, it'd be great. Great information for us at JCPC.
It would also be great information for the referral sources.
Yeah, yes.
We've got 60 people to draw
Yes, that's right, that's right.
from this task and so on.
And I think also with Brandon, Land of Sky as well, if some of those are graduating or staying here and needing jobs, it'd be a great connection piece at that point to help, again, with JCPC members of them to just connect, knowing how difficult it is for individuals who don't have bachelor's stuff to get jobs here in Buncombe County, to allow that to access. So at least we can kind of almost push them, if they are staying around here and not going off into college or something like that, kind of push them into an area where perhaps Land of Sky or other entities can help them gain employment in this area would be extremely helpful for them.
Yeah, as soon as those folks graduate, as soon as they graduate, they can get access to Title I, Title II funding. So, and that's been one of the things I think that we're working on across the state, is to try to get those lists. Try to how do we get around FERPA? If I had a list of every graduate, then I could address them and we could, figure out how to get, we'd have contact information for them, to at least where we could reach out to the parents and say, hey, what's your plan? Do you know if your student is now out of work and out of school and they're between the ages 16 and 24, that there are funds that can help them grow career-wise. But it's just hard to get that information. Somehow the Army is the only people that can get that information from the schools. But armed forces.
I just wanted to add that and I know it happens in many families, not just Latinos families, the older siblings has to be the child care providers for the youngest ones. So sometimes it's very hard to get involved during the summer just for that family dynamic reasons. But we are working and we have 2 good meetings in 2 middle schools where with parents offering, and thanks to conversations that we are having with Pivot, because they have their Saturday offer to be able to work with youth from 8th graders that have been having rough situations and showing some behavioral concerns, to take opportunity of the summer before they go to high school to develop some emotional or impulse control and seeing the consequences that they can come with bad decision. Very, very preventive approach. But so far, the meetings with parents are very long and extensive to make them accept the need of this preventive measure, but it's looking really good. So we are excited to provide with that alternative during the summer that is not a Monday through Friday, but is a whole day with transportation and yeah, we hope is successful and students show up and parents are on board, but yeah, we are excited about that possibility.
Is there anything else that we haven't gone over the agenda, not mentioned, that anyone would like to speak before we adjourn? Do we know when our next JCPC meeting?
It will be the third Thursday of August, assuming it doesn't fall on a national holiday or, no, it should be the third Thursday of August, from 8:30 to 10 a.m. So that will be August 21st. Is that the week before school starts back?
I believe so.
That's often a week that schools are out and camps are out. So I can send out a poll to find out who's gonna be available during that week, if we need to do it virtual or or still try to do hybrid, or if we need to look for another date. Thank you for the reminder that that can be a tricky week for people. And it looks like the calendar invites for next year are not sent out yet. So I will go ahead and send out the whole series of calendar invites for the next coming year. And then I'll also send out that question about the August meeting date.
Okay.
Oh, and George, I wanted to publicly thank Kia of Asheville, Paramount Kia of Asheville. We now have our band. So we appreciate you guys allowing us that opportunity. It's awesome. Feels like a non-duct tape vehicle. So we're really excited about that. And just as the new North Carolina labor laws are going into effect, we have so many people stepping up. Harbor Freight, Piazza, Trader Joe's, all kinds of people helping. Forget how expensive snacks are when labor laws kick in and you can't cook and do these things at the community centers like we do. So just kind of a shout out to all the community support that we're getting.
All right, since we're not gonna be back here for at least another 2 months, there's gonna be things that are gonna come about the rest of this month in July. So if things come up in the community that wasn't mentioned here, please feel free to kind of forward that information to myself or to Hannah so that we can push that out and have people in attendance. It'd always be great to kind of be out there in the community, help educate people on JCPC, on resources, on all that kind of stuff. That's kind of why we are the council members here, is to kind of get the word out. And summer might be that time because a lot of people, once they're out of school, now have this opportunity to go back out in the community. So let's use this time the next 2 months. If there are things that pop up, kind of just show up and just kind of educate people on what we have to offer.
Well, thank you all for the work you do. I know that, I know I was mentioning other examples, but I brag on you all the time because y'all with the School Justice Partnership and the work. So, even when you were at half staff. The work continues. So thank you. Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else, Hannah?
No, we are doing great. We do, as I mentioned, there's a meeting coming up after us with Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA folks, so I think they'll be a great job on getting through this meeting and in record time.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
All right. Y'all have a wonderful summer. Thank you all for being here. Again, either physically here at 200 College Street or virtually. Any questions, any concerns, any events, please feel free to pass all that stuff along so we kind of stay in communication throughout the summer and not in our own silos. We've got a lot of work still to do with schools, with SROs, with community involvement. So this is almost our busy time. So we can kind of lay that groundwork before school starts back up. And thank you all. Y'all have an amazing rest of your day.
Thanks, bye.
Take care.